All right. So now that we are going to see how we can make use of the ChatGPT or any other large language model to write the automated test cases for us, like automated UI test cases for us. So we already saw that using a simple line of code, we could able to easily write get the entire operation. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a level further. If you are working with Selenium, you already know that Selenium has got what is called as an Selenium IDE. So I'm going to go with that option this time, the Selenium IDE. For instance, you have got this application that you are seeing over here, the eaapp.somi.com website. And we have got this application and I need to automate this one. I mean, you can't just copy the page source, scrap it and give it to ChatGPT and ask it to write the code. It does that for you. You know how it did for the manual testing. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the automation as well. So the first thing which I'm going to do it is obviously the page web scraping. So I'm going to go inspect or view the page source. I'm going to copy the page source. I'm going to go to the ChatGPT and I'm going to ask here, can you write the page object model code for the page page object model code in Selenium with Java for the page which is going to be this one, and also make sure you use testng as the test framework. So whatever that you wanted to do, you can just put them all in one single request so that you don't end up asking many questions every single time. So while you do that, you'll notice that now the ChatGPT can understand what your question is, and then it is starting to add those things for me over here. You will notice that it is just writing, it's adding the dependency, and then it is writing the page object model code over here with all the different components. You can see that it is adding pretty neatly, that adding a page factory.init element for this particular page. It also writes that there is an ID of username, there's an ID of password, there's an ID of remember me, and you see that it knows every single thing from the page source. I don't even have to do anything in here because it could able to go into the page. What I mean about that is we just go and inspect this particular element for the Selenium inspection that you always do to identify the locator. You see that it knows that the ID is equal to username and the name is username, something like that. So it knows the locator as well. It just go and scraps everything for you over here, and then it is trying to write the method for you, which is amazing. And it has already put through the test method for you over here so that you can start using it. So you see that it has did a setup operation and there is an after method operation. And once the setup is done, it has also done a separate login test class file where it has extended the base test, which is this guy, this class file. And then it is also adding the operation over here, like there is a login page and then it navigates to the login page, performs the login operation over here, and then does everything for you. You see that it has added almost every single code that you really need just by giving the page source code. This is quite good. This way you can see that you can really utilize the power of the large language model to do every single operation. What I'm going to do is, just for the sake of the time, I'm going to be opening one of my projects which I have been talking about in the YouTube channel, where I'm talking about this particular course, which is exactly the same code that you just saw over here, which is nothing but it's going to have a login page where it has got the locators over here and also has got the operation which I'm trying to perform, and it has got many different pages which does exactly the same kind of operation that we just saw generated, almost identical to what the ChatGPT has generated. Now what I can do is I can just ask the ChatGPT, can you try to write the same kind of code for me even in different pages as well, even for different pages as well. So if I wanted to say that, maybe I can just compare whether my code is matching to what it is looking for. So you can see that I have got the login page over here. It has got the login page, there is a driver, and then it's an init element. I can even cross check whether my code is matching to what the code is generated from the large language model, and you see that my coding pattern is matching exactly with the large language model's coding patterns as well. So it is very identical with my coding practices, so I can happily use the same code for my other pages as well. So now if I just want to cross check if my code that I have written over here is matching what the code is going to be generated from the large language model, I can do that. And also I can ask the large language model for a few more operations. So you can see that even in my code, I have passed all the different login method like username and password like this over here as a parameter. And similarly for the create employee page, I'm passing in quite a lot of different parameter to perform the employee creation. But what if I wanted to use a custom type to pass the data for this particular employee instead of passing it like multiple different parameter? So what I really mean is that I wanted to do something like this. I wanted to write a method where I'm going to be saying that I wanted to have like an create employee class file, something like this. And this create employee is going to have all the value which I'm trying to pass in. So I'm just going to say create employee dot name if it has one, and then similarly create employee dot duration work, something like that. So if I want to have a model something like this, how can I actually generate that? So I am going to ask these kinds of questions to the large language model, and we'll see if that's all going to happen right now. So I'm going to go again to the application. I'm going to log in this time, and you see that this is how you can start evolving your code, not just by copy pasting some of the source code from the page. Rather, you can even start to leverage the power of the AI or large language models to refactor your code and make it even more better. So this time I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy this entire thing. I'm going to ask, can you write the POM code in Selenium with Java for this page, and don't add the test code. So I don't really need a test code, I just need the page object model. So you'll notice that immediately it is creating a employee page .java for me. So pretty much like what it has done, I have done like a create employee page. Now it is just writing like an employee page, and you see that it has added all the different IDs over here, pretty identical to what I have written over here as well. So I'm using the name over here, and it's using an ID, doesn't matter. And but there is using an ID for duration worked, I guess. There we go. And there is a name salary, name grade. So it does everything for you over here. And it also adds even further operation which I have not really added, like these. This is really cool. Like it does that just for make suring that it has got all the different locators needed for the automation testing. It is putting them all in here, which is amazing. And now you see that it is adding quite a lot of different methods in a separate method. Just for creating the name, it is doing it over here. For salary, is doing a separate method and things of that nature. And what if I wanted to ask the GPT to say like, hey, don't do like that, just create all of them in one single method. So I'm going to say, can you create a single method for employee creation, and also try to pass the custom type as the parameter instead of strings for each and every input value. So what I really mean that is that if you see for employee, for the email, it has to pass a string email, and similarly for the grade, it has to pass a string grade, and duration worked, it has to pass the integer as duration worked. I want every single parameters in one single method, and also that needs to come from a custom type. So we'll see if that really is going to happen. So while I ask this, immediately the large language model could understand what I'm talking about, and now it is creating a custom type called as an employee. And also it creates a lot of different getter operation, because we really need those while we actually use that. And you will notice that immediately it is now trying to write the page object model code for me, where it could able to understand like how it has to write that method. Look at that. It's just doing every single thing for me over here. Now you can see that for the create employee method, it has passed the employee type, which is the custom type, and now it is passing all these values using the get salary, the getter operation method, and this just works pretty good. And while you pass this particular value to the employee, it is even more better. So now let's try to do this. I'm going to copy this whole source code from here, and if I just go and create an employee, for instance, like what the GPT has given to me, something like this. Oops, maybe just gonna copy it here. And if I just gonna go to my create page, employee page over here, I can probably just do the same kind of operation what has been mentioned to me over there. So I just have to pass the custom type as employee. So just get rid of this code and just say employee as employee. And over here for the name, I just have to pass employee dot get name. Look at that. I can do this right now for every single operation without even compromising with my code, and it just works fine. So you see that it gets the salary and it gets the email, get email, and I'm gonna get the grade over here, and everything just works fine except the duration worked is integer. So I'm gonna convert that to string. Probably instead of returning me as integer, you can probably return as a string, and the duration worked can be a string as well. That is the only change I really have to make it, so that it just works fine. So there you go. And now you can see that our code is just legal over here, and I'm going to get rid of these parameters that I have passed in over here. This is another way for us to make sure that we could able to generate the code and we can start utilizing it within our automation testing. Hope it all makes sense, and this is how you can start refactoring our code from here.